Chosen one, heaven has paused for you. Do you feel the stillness? It is not the kind of silence that comes from emptiness, but the holy pause of the Almighty, who has leaned forward from his throne to witness the moment you finally bowed your will to his. The noise of the world is muffled, the distractions fade, and all of heaven watches. For your obedience is not small. It is a turning point in eternity's record of your life. For so long, you wrestled between what you wanted and what he asked. The struggle was not hidden from him. Every tear you shed in frustration, every night you stared at the ceiling, questioning if you could truly let go, heaven recorded it all. Angels were dispatched not to force your choice, but to guard you while you made it. And now, here you stand, heart unclenched, hands open, saying, "Yes, Lord, even if it costs me everything." When you chose to obey, something unseen shifted. A door creaked open in the spirit. The golden hinges of heaven's gate turned, not because you begged for blessing, but because you surrendered to the King. You must understand, obedience is not a transaction. It is alignment. It is the moment your heart's compass points true north and refuses to waver. That is why this day is marked in heaven's calendar as the day the gates opened wide for you. The ancient words recorded in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verset 2, declare, "All these blessings will come upon you and overtake you if you obey the Lord your God." Today, your strength is renewed not because the road got easier, but because you finally stopped dragging the weight of disobedience behind you. Now the wind of the Spirit can lift you, like an eagle carried above the storms. And as you rise, you will notice that the view changes. From above, the very things that once looked like towering mountains now appear as small shadows on the landscape. The storm that terrified you before is now beneath your wings. The whispers of doubt lose their power when you are soaring at God's altitude. This is the vantage point of obedience, the ability to see your life from heaven's perspective, where fear is small and faith is vast. You have crossed into a realm where the impossible bends under the authority of the one you follow. You may think heaven's gates are some faraway portal you must wait until death to see. No, the gate of heaven is a spiritual reality that opens whenever your life aligns perfectly with His will. When you obey, you step under an open sky where nothing blocks the flow of blessing, guidance, and presence. You move from surviving to soaring. Some will not understand why you gave up what you did. They will think you are foolish for leaving certain opportunities, friendships, or habits behind. Let them think it. The ones who only see with natural eyes cannot comprehend the beauty of a life lived under divine command. You are not walking to please them. You are walking to please the one whose eyes blaze like fire. And listen, this obedience of yours, it was not coincidence. It was not a random good decision. This is divine orchestration. Heaven had been preparing your heart for this precise act of surrender for years. Every delay, every closed door, every painful detour was the gentle hand of the Father steering you toward this yes. I must tell you, chosen one, when heaven pauses, earth will feel it. Situations that were frozen will begin to thaw. Prayers that seemed unanswered will begin to stir with movement. Even people around you will notice a change in your countenance, though they might not have the words for it. That's the fragrance of obedience. It lingers. It draws favor like blossoms draw the bees. Do not think lightly of this moment. Many hear God's voice, but delay. They treat his instructions as optional suggestions, but you obeyed. And that obedience has become the key that fits the lock to your next season. The gate has swung wide, and you are stepping through it now. Before we move forward, I will ask you to make a prophetic act of agreement. If this word resonates deep in your spirit, if you sense that it is speaking directly to your current moment, I want you to comment the number 991 right now. This is not superstition, it is a symbolic declaration that you are stepping into the birthing of a new season and the sealing of God's promise. Heaven has paused. Chosen one. The King is smiling, and the gates are open. Step through. The final yes is never an accident. It is the moment when every whisper of the Spirit, every warning, every gentle nudge that you once brushed aside finally converges into a single, undeniable call. You felt it pressing on your chest. A weight that was not meant to harm, but to break through. This yes was not born in a moment of emotion. It was birthed through a lifetime of choices, mistakes, and divine patience. You had said yes before, or at least you thought you had. But those earlier yeses still carried conditions, hidden clauses, where you allowed yourself an escape route if things became uncomfortable. This time was different. This time, you laid down the final condition. You closed the escape routes. You told the Lord, whatever it takes, I am yours. Heaven recognizes the difference between a partial surrender and a total one. And this time, heaven marked it as complete. It is strange how, before that moment, the command seemed impossible. You pictured the cost in your mind, the opportunities you would lose, the relationships that might fade, the comfort you would have to leave behind. It seemed like the very air you breathed depended on holding on to those things. But the instant you let them go, you realized they had been chains, not lifelines. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. This is the nature of God's commands. They may cut, but they cut to heal. The removal is not loss, it is pruning. A branch pruned of excess grows stronger and bears more fruit. In your case, the final yes stripped away what was hindering your growth in ways you couldn't see until it was gone. The atmosphere in your spirit shifted almost immediately. That weight you had carried, the low hum of unrest that you learned to live with, was suddenly gone. It wasn't replaced with wild excitement or loud celebration. Instead, it was replaced with stillness, the kind that speaks louder than any noise. Stillness is heaven's signature on a surrendered heart. It says, now we can build. End of tap. It is important to understand that God had been waiting, not because he was reluctant to bless you, but because he will never bless a foundation that cannot hold the weight of what he plans to place on it. Your partial obedience could not hold the structure he had in mind. This is why the final yes is so vital. It signals to heaven that the foundation is ready. And make no mistake, this moment was not private in the unseen realm. The moment your spirit said, yes, Lord, there was movement in the heavenlies. The angels assigned to you strengthened their ranks. Assignments that had been delayed were released, and the enemy's last claim over certain areas of your life was revoked. That is why sometimes, after obedience, You may feel sudden resistance. It is not because you have done wrong, but because darkness senses its defeat and makes a final, desperate attempt to pull you back. But you will not be pulled back. This yes has locked you forward. You are tethered now to the will of God in a way that makes retreat impossible without tearing something deep inside you. And that, chosen one, is mercy. Think of Abraham on the mountain with Isaac. The moment he lifted the knife, fully prepared to obey, God intervened. Heaven did not require the sacrifice, but it required the willingness. That is what your yes has proven, that nothing, not even the dearest thing, is beyond the reach of God's request. And because of that, the gates are open. This season will feel different. The noise of competing desires will fade. Decisions will come easier because there is no longer a tug of war inside you. You will begin to notice that what used to drain you now fuels you. Even your prayers will sound different, less like pleading and more like agreement. And this is only the beginning. Your yes is not the end of a chapter. It is the key that has unlocked the next book of your destiny. The ink is fresh, the pages unmarked, but the author has already written the ending, and in that ending, you are victorious. The unseen war is the one you rarely notice until it is already won. You walk through your days thinking the challenges are only in the visible realm: difficult people, financial strain, unexpected setbacks. But behind those shadows is a battle more fierce and more strategic than any earthly conflict. It is the war for your obedience, your calling, your soul's alignment with the will of God. In the days leading to your final surrender, the unseen war was at its peak. Angels stood on one side, warring for your clarity, whispering truth into your spirit when lies tried to cloud it. On the other, the forces of darkness worked tirelessly to keep you bound, feeding you half-truths that made compromise seem harmless. Every moment you hesitated, the war intensified. But in the instant you obeyed, the balance shifted. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Lo, heaven's armies are not deployed by your strength, but by your surrender. The moment you laid down your will, you gave heaven legal authority to move on your behalf in ways that had been restrained before. The enemy's last foothold crumbled. Every dark assignment written against you in this season was cancelled. This is why obedience is such a threat to hell. It removes every legal right darkness has to stay. Picture it: the enemy standing on territory he has occupied for years in your life. He is comfortable there. He thinks you have learned to live with his presence. But then your obedience comes like a sudden wave of light. Angels rush in, driving him out, leaving him exposed and stripped of power. He retreats, but not quietly. He leaves, kicking, screaming, trying to throw shadows across your path one last time. You may even feel that resistance now. It comes in the form of sudden doubt, unexpected conflict, or a surge of old temptations. Do not mistake these for signs that you are off track. They are confirmation that you have stepped into the place the enemy feared you would reach. The resistance is proof of progress. In the heavenly realm, your obedience sent ripples far beyond your personal life. Others connected to you, family members, friends, even people you have not met yet, are now in the wake of your breakthrough. Chains they have carried for years will begin to weaken because you opened a gate in the spirit that was locked before. The war is not always loud to the human ear. Sometimes it is fought in silence while you go about your day, unaware. But understand this: when the final blow is struck and victory is secured, heaven celebrates. There are shouts of triumph in realms you cannot yet see. And the banner over you reads one word: obedient. Now, I want you to mark this moment in the physical realm. Type in the comments, "Victory is mine." Then, this is not a casual phrase, it is a prophetic decree. By writing it, you are announcing to every force of darkness that the war over your obedience has been won. You are agreeing with heaven's record of this moment and declaring that what has been taken from the enemy will not be returned. It is an act of spiritual sealing, stamping this day as a permanent victory in your life. The victory you have stepped into is not fragile. You do not have to guard it with fear. You guard it with consistency daily. Steady obedience. The same yes that brought you here will keep you here. And every time you obey, you fortify the walls around what God has given you. Do not underestimate how strategic this war has been. The enemy does not waste resources on people who are going nowhere. The intensity of the fight over your life is proof of the weight of your calling. This is why you felt the pushback so fiercely. This is why the battle seemed to touch every area of your life at once. The goal was to exhaust you before you could reach this moment. But here you are, not just standing, but standing victorious. And in the record books of heaven, this day will always be noted as the day the unseen war was decided in your favor. The gates that opened for you are now guarded by angels who will not allow the enemy to reclaim what you have surrendered to God. So, walk forward, chosen one, with the quiet confidence of a soldier who has already won the decisive battle. You will face more fights ahead, but none will be able to reverse what has been secured here. Your obedience has changed the map in the spirit. Darkness has lost territory, and heaven has claimed ground. That is the victory you now carry. A covenant sealed. That is what your obedience has accomplished. Not a casual agreement that can be renegotiated when life feels inconvenient, but a binding spiritual contract written in the ink of your surrender. Covenants in the kingdom are not merely promises. They are sacred bonds that heaven honors and hell fears. When you said yes without conditions, you stepped into a covenant moment, one that carries the full weight of God's authority behind it. Throughout Scripture, covenants have marked turning points in history. Noah's covenant preserved life after the flood. Abraham's covenant birthed a nation. David's covenant established a throne. Each covenant was initiated by God, but sealed by the obedience of man. Your obedience has placed you in that same lineage of covenant keepers. Those who align themselves so completely with God's will that heaven commits itself to their cause. This covenant is not written on paper, nor carved into stone. It is engraved into the fabric of your spirit. Heaven has recorded it, and the signature is your yes. You may not have heard trumpets in the natural, but in the spirit, there was a sound, the sound of the seal being pressed into place. The divine confirmation that the terms have been agreed upon, as Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 18, "For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen, will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished." Oh, the covenant you've stepped into is just as enduring. It is not dependent on shifting emotions or circumstances. Once sealed, it stands. weathering storms, outlasting seasons, resisting the erosion of time, and because it is sealed by God, no opposing force can annul it. But here is what many do not understand. Every covenant carries both promise and responsibility. The promise is God's unwavering commitment to guide, protect, and bless you in alignment with His will. The responsibility is your ongoing commitment to walk in that will, even when it demands sacrifice. This is why some experience a moment of breakthrough but fail to see lasting change. They treat the covenant as a one-time event rather than a lifelong alignment. In your case, the weight of this covenant will become more evident over time. You will find doors opening in places you never sought entry. You will discover favor that cannot be explained by natural connections. You will notice that what once felt impossible now feels inevitable. Not because you have more resources, but because the covenant has shifted the atmosphere around you. This covenant also carries protection. There are battles you will never have to fight simply because the seal of heaven's agreement is over you. Enemies will make plans that dissolve before they reach you. Traps will be set that you will never even see because they collapse under the weight of divine protection. Some victories will be invisible to you. 1. In realms you cannot perceive, yet they will shape your path all the same. You may also notice that certain things you once tolerated will now feel impossible to engage with. The covenant has refined you, closing doors to patterns, attitudes, or relationships that are not compatible with the path you've chosen. This is not restriction for restriction's sake. It is refinement for the sake of promise. A covenant cannot be mixed with compromise. It must be guarded with diligence. Think of it as a sacred circle drawn around your life. Inside that circle, everything thrives under God's blessing. Outside, things may look appealing, but are ultimately unable to survive the purity of His presence. This is why you may sense a growing clarity in your spirit, an instinct to say no quickly to what you once considered. The covenant sharpens your discernment. It is also important to realize that this covenant is not only about you, it extends beyond your lifetime. Just as God's promises to Abraham touched generations he would never meet, your covenant obedience will ripple through your lineage. Children, grandchildren, and even spiritual sons and daughters will walk in blessings they did not earn, simply because you sealed this agreement today. And yet, the beauty of this covenant is that it does not bind you in fear. You are not chained to a set of rules out of dread that you might be cast away. Rather, you are bound in love, anchored in a relationship with the one whose promises are yes and amen. You walk in freedom, but it is a freedom that knows its boundaries, a liberty that flourishes within the framework of divine order. The day you obeyed fully, the covenant was sealed. It was not written in ink, but in the eternal record of heaven. Angels know it. Hell knows it. And as you walk forward, you will know it too, not just by faith, but by the tangible unfolding of the promises that only a covenant can release. The floodgates of favor do not creak open slowly. When God decides to release them, they burst forth with a force that nothing in the natural can restrain. You may have thought His blessings would arrive like gentle drops of rain over time, but obedience changes the timetable. When the gate opens, the flow is immediate. What has been delayed for years begins to accelerate in days. At first, you might not even recognize it as favor. It may feel like coincidence when a stranger offers help, or like luck when an unexpected opportunity finds you, but in the Spirit. There is no such thing as coincidence or luck for the obedient. This is alignment, God's hand moving in ways you could never orchestrate on your own. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 84, verse 11. For the Lord God is a sun and shield. The Lord bestows favor and honor. No good thing does he withhold from those whose walk is blameless. Your obedience has placed you under this promise. No good thing will be withheld. That does not mean life will be free of challenges. But it does mean that challenges will no longer have the power to block the flow of God's goodness toward you. Even in hard seasons, favor will find you like a river that bends around rocks but never stops moving forward. The floodgates of favor also carry a multiplication effect. One act of obedience can set off a chain reaction in your life. A single yes might lead to meeting the right person, which leads to a door opening, which leads to another opportunity, which leads to impact far beyond what you imagined. This is why heaven celebrates obedience, because it knows the ripple will not stop with you. Favor is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's the quiet protection of God keeping you from making the wrong investment, or the subtle guidance that puts you in the right place at the right time. Sometimes it's a conversation you didn't plan that leads to a breakthrough you didn't expect. And other times, favor is simply God's presence, making the ordinary feel extraordinary. If you are tempted to think that this is about earning something from God, remember, favor is not payment. It is partnership. God releases it because you are in alignment with Him, not because you have forced His hand. Your obedience has created the right conditions for His blessings to flow freely. You will notice that favor often attracts attention. People may wonder why things seem to work out for you, why opportunities seem to come your way, why you walk in a peace that others struggle to find. That is your chance to give glory to God, not as a performance, but as a genuine overflow of gratitude. This keeps the flow pure, preventing pride from contaminating the stream. And chosen one, if this message has been stirring your spirit and opening your eyes to what God is doing right now, I want to pause for a moment and speak from the heart. If you have found encouragement here, consider staying connected. Like this message so it reaches others who need it. Share it with someone you know is standing at their own gate of obedience. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you never miss the next word heaven places on my heart for you. This isn't about building numbers. It's about building a family of faith that grows together under an open heaven. When you live in this flow of favor, you will find that you become a channel for it, not just a recipient. God will begin to bless you in ways that overflow naturally into the lives of others. You will start to notice that people are drawn to you, not because of what you have, but because of the atmosphere you carry. This is favor in its purest form, not just for personal gain, but for kingdom impact. There will be moments when you are tempted to doubt it, especially if you face sudden resistance. But favor does not vanish in the face of opposition. In fact, it often increases. Opposition simply becomes the backdrop against which God's blessings shine brighter. So, walk confidently in this season. You are under an open gate. The floodgates of favor have been unlocked, and the flow will not be stopped. What is beginning now will set the tone for the rest of your journey, not just moments of blessing, but a lifestyle of divine provision and supernatural alignment. Prophetic signs are heaven's way of confirming that something has shifted in your life. They are not random, and they are never meaningless. When you fully obeyed, you unlocked a new realm. And now the signs will begin to appear not only to you, but also to those around you. Sometimes these signs will be subtle, like hearing the same scripture repeatedly from unrelated sources, or encountering a phrase that seems to speak directly to your situation. Other times, they will be dramatic, sudden provision when you least expect it. A relationship mended that you thought was beyond repair, or a door opening in a place you had long stopped knocking. The Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 2, verse 9, "No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love him." This verse reminds you that what's happening now is not something you could have predicted. It is the unveiling of something prepared long before you even realized you needed it. Your obedience did not create the blessing, it positioned you to see it and receive it. Signs are not given to replace faith, but to strengthen it. God does not send confirmations because he doubts his own word. He sends them because he knows. Our human hearts sometimes need tangible reminders, and in this season, you will receive them one after another, until the reality of your new position in him becomes impossible to deny. These prophetic signs may also act as markers, guiding your steps as you navigate this open heaven season. A conversation may redirect your path. An unexpected opportunity may align perfectly with what God has spoken in secret. Even closed doors in this season will serve as signs not of failure, but of protection. You may notice a theme in the signs you encounter. God often speaks in patterns, repeating certain images, words, or events until you realize they are not accidental. These patterns are divine breadcrumbs, leading you deeper into his plan. For example, you might begin seeing the same number repeatedly on clocks, receipts, license plates. You might hear a specific Bible verse in multiple contexts, or you might encounter the same encouragement from different people who don't even know each other. These are heaven's highlighters, drawing your attention to what he wants you to see. And when you see these signs, your response matters. They are invitations to deeper faith, not just curiosities to note and forget. Thank him for them. Ask him what they mean. Align your next steps with the confirmation he is providing. Sometimes, the signs are not even for you alone. They are for those watching your life. God may use your journey as a prophetic picture to speak to others. They will see your transformation, your provision, your peace, and recognize that it is the result of divine intervention. This is how your obedience becomes a testimony without you even trying to explain it. There will also be moments when the sign comes in the form of peace in a place where there should be fear, or boldness where there once was hesitation. The internal shifts are just as prophetic as the external ones. They indicate that your spirit is aligning more closely with his Now, chosen one, I want you to do something that will anchor this moment in the natural. Comment the number 844 right now. This is not random. 8 represents new beginnings, and 4 is a sign of stability and foundation. By writing it, you are declaring that you are stepping into a stable new beginning, rooted in obedience and sustained by heaven's confirmation. This act is not superstition, it is agreement. It is your way of saying to God, I recognize the signs you are sending, and I align my life with what they are pointing toward. It is also a message to the unseen realm that you are not wandering aimlessly, but walking with deliberate steps in the direction He is leading. In the coming days, watch closely. Keep a journal if you can. Write down every small or large sign that catches your attention. Over time, you will see the pattern emerge, and it will become a map of how God has been guiding you. This will strengthen you in the moments when you cannot yet see the full picture. Your obedience has opened the gate, and now the signs will light the path ahead. Follow them, for they will lead you exactly where He intends you to go. Your name announced, that is the reality you have stepped into. In the unseen realm, identity is more than a label. It is authority. It is assignment. It is the recognition of who you are and whose you are when you obeyed fully. Heaven did not just take note. It proclaimed your name before principalities and powers, both in light and in darkness. This announcement is not about fame in the earthly sense. It is not about people knowing you, but about heaven marking you as one who carries divine backing. In the courts of heaven, there is now an official record that you have chosen alignment with the King, and because of that, every spiritual being, angelic or demonic, has been made aware of your position. We find in the book of Philippians, chapter 3, verse 20, "But our citizenship is in heaven, and we eagerly await a Savior from there, the Lord Jesus Christ, our Lord." This heavenly citizenship is more than a spiritual concept. It comes with rights, privileges, and responsibilities. It also comes with recognition. In the same way, an ambassador is announced when entering another nation. You have been announced as a representative of heaven in the territory God has placed you in. Think of how God spoke over Jesus at His baptism, declaring for all to hear, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." That public affirmation was not for Jesus' sake. He already knew His identity. It was for those listening, both seen and unseen, so they would know exactly who stood before them. In the same way, your obedience has prompted an announcement that clarifies your standing in the Spirit. This announcement changes the atmosphere around you. In the realm of darkness, it signals a warning: this one is off limits. The enemy may still attempt to oppose you, but his access has been restricted. In the realm of light, it signals an opportunity. This one is ready for greater assignments. Angels now operate with greater freedom around you because your obedience has opened the way for them to fulfill their missions without the hindrance of your resistance. There is also a ripple effect in the natural. You may notice that people begin to see you differently, even if they cannot explain why. Some will be drawn to you, sensing peace, wisdom, or strength that they did not notice before. Others may feel uneasy, even without cause, because the light you carry exposes things they would rather keep hidden. This is part of the cost of being known in the Spirit. Your very presence becomes a dividing line, but do not fear that cost. Jesus told His disciples that the world would know them by their fruit, and fruit is not silent. Your life will speak loudly now, even in moments when you are quiet. The announcement of your name means your life has become a living testimony. Understand this: being announced in the Spirit is not a ceremonial moment that fades. It is a new status that endures. Wherever you go, you are recognized. When you enter a place, the spiritual atmosphere shifts to account for your presence. When you speak, your words carry greater weight because they are backed by the authority of the one who sent you. This recognition will also draw assignments to you that you did not seek out. Opportunities to lead, to speak, to intercede for others, will begin to find you. These moments are not interruptions. They are the direct result of your obedience and the announcement of your readiness. In some cases, God may allow you to overhear or discover how He has spoken about you to others. This is not to inflate your pride, but to confirm that what He declared in the Spirit is now manifesting in the natural. You may hear someone say, "I don't know why, but I felt I could trust you," or "I believe you're the right person for this." These are echoes of heaven's announcement. There is a weight to this recognition. It is not a title to display, but a mantle to carry. And with it comes a heightened level of accountability. Those who know you are a representative of heaven will watch your actions closely. But remember, the same God who called you and announced you will also sustain you. Your name has been announced. Chosen one. You are known in heaven, recognized in the realm of darkness, and marked on earth. This is not the result of striving for recognition. It is the natural outcome of walking in radical obedience. And now, every step you take will be watched, not with suspicion, but with the expectation that the one who sent you will move through you. The mantle of authority is not a piece of fabric draped over your shoulders. It is a spiritual weight, an invisible covering that signifies you have been entrusted with heaven's power for a divine assignment. When you obeyed fully, God did not just reward you with blessing, He clothed you with authority. Authority in the kingdom is never about control for personal gain. It is about stewardship. It is the ability to act on behalf of the King, to speak and move in alignment with His will, knowing that all of heaven stands behind you. It is also the permission to confront darkness without fear, because you are no longer speaking from your own strength, but from His. The prophet Elijah's story reminds us in the first book of Kings, chapter 19, verse 19, that when Elijah cast his cloak over Elisha, it was not just a symbolic gesture, it was the passing of a prophetic mantle, the transfer of responsibility, power, and calling. And we are reminded through the writings of Luke, chapter 10, verse 19, "I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions, and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you." This mantle changes how you are received in both the natural and spiritual realms. In the spirit, darkness recognizes the authority you carry. You may find that temptations which once ensnared you lose their grip. Attacks that once overwhelmed you now meet resistance before they reach you. This is because the mantle not only empowers, but also protects. It is like walking under a banner that declares, "This one belongs to the King." The enemy sees it and hesitates. Angels see it and draw near. Even creation itself responds, aligning circumstances in your favor because you carry heaven's endorsement. You are no longer just navigating life, you are advancing a kingdom, and all of heaven moves to defend what you represent. In the natural, people may respond differently to you without even knowing why. Some will show respect and openness. Others may feel intimidated or challenged. This is not about you personally, it is about the authority you now represent. The mantle carries the fragrance of heaven, and not everyone is comfortable in its presence. With this authority comes responsibility. The mantle is not meant to be worn for show, it must be put to use. God did not clothe you with this covering so you could admire it, but so you could step into assignments that require more than human ability. You will be called into situations where wisdom, discernment, and courage are needed. In greater measure, the mantle also has a refining effect. It will not rest on compromise. If you attempt to move outside the will of God, you will feel the weight of it shift. This is His mercy, a reminder to stay aligned so that the authority can flow unhindered. Many have lost the influence they were given because they treated the mantle as a personal trophy rather than a sacred trust. You may notice an increase in spiritual sensitivity. You will see through deception more quickly, sense spiritual atmospheres more sharply, and receive insight that goes beyond natural reasoning. This is part of the equipping the mantle brings. It is not just about outward action, it is about inward transformation that prepares you for greater service. Carrying a mantle also means you will face greater opposition. The enemy is not threatened by a believer without authority, but when you carry power that can disrupt his plans, you become a target. Yet, this is not cause for fear. The same God who placed the mantle on you will also defend and sustain you. You must remember that the mantle is not transferable unless God Himself directs it. In time, you may be called to pass it to another, as Elijah did to Elisha. But until then, it is yours to steward faithfully. That stewardship involves prayer, obedience, humility, and the willingness to step into assignments that may stretch you far beyond your comfort zone. The day you received this mantle may not have looked extraordinary in the natural, but in the spirit, it was a coronation. You were clothed with authority because you proved you could be trusted with it. And now, as you walk forward, every word you speak and every action you take under this mantle will carry more weight than you realize. Chosen one, wear it well. Let it remind you that you are not walking in your own name, but in the name of the one who called you, covered you, and sent you out. The enemy's retreat is rarely silent. In the spirit, it is marked by the sound of chains breaking, of territory being released, of strongholds collapsing. You may not hear it with your physical ears, but your spirit will sense it, the sudden shift when oppression lifts, when the heaviness that followed you begins to fade. When you gave your full obedience, the enemy's last claim over certain areas of your life was broken. He may attempt to bluff his way back in, whispering lies, stirring confusion, or trying to resurrect old wounds. But make no mistake, his authority has been stripped. What remains is only noise, a desperate attempt to convince you that nothing has changed. We are reminded through the writings of James, chapter 4, verse 7, "Submit yourselves, then, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you." This is not a suggestion, it is a spiritual law. The enemy cannot stay where full submission to God is in place. Obedience leaves no foothold for him to exploit. And so, when you surrendered completely, the devil had no choice but to retreat. It was as if the light in your spirit suddenly blazed so brightly that darkness had no shadow left to hide in. Every lie lost its grip, every chain loosened, and the very atmosphere around you shifted. Heaven's victory banner was raised, and the enemy knew his time was over. Sometimes, his retreat feels like a sudden calm. Other times, it looks like doors closing, relationships ending, habits breaking, opportunities disappearing. At first, you might see these as losses, but in truth, they are the removal of enemy influence, the clearing of space for what God intends to place in your life. The enemy does not simply walk away from territory he has held for years without resistance. You may feel pushback in this season, unexpected challenges, moments of discouragement, even subtle temptations trying to lure you into old patterns. But these are the final embers of a fire that has already been extinguished. The retreat has begun, and nothing will stop it. One of the most dangerous moments after victory is the temptation to relax your vigilance. Many fall into this trap, thinking the war is over. But the retreat phase is when you must remain alert, guarding the ground you have gained. Think of a general who, after pushing back the enemy, fortifies the newly reclaimed territory to prevent another invasion. That is your role now, to protect the freedom you have received. You will notice changes in your atmosphere. Peace will feel more natural. Clarity of thought will return. You may even find joy in areas of life that once felt like constant struggle. These are signs of the enemy's retreat. And as he backs away, the light in those areas will grow stronger. This retreat also affects those connected to you. Just as the enemy tried to influence your circle through your struggles, your breakthrough will now influence them toward freedom. They will feel the shift, even if they don't fully understand it. Some will be inspired to seek God for themselves. Others may ask you directly what has changed. In those moments, you have the chance to point them toward the one who brought the victory. The key in this season is to keep walking forward. Do not spend time looking back to see if the enemy is still there. He thrives on your attention. Instead, fix your eyes on the path ahead, on the assignments and opportunities that are now opening, because you are no longer bound. Now, I want you to anchor this truth in your spirit with a prophetic declaration. Type in the comments, "I stand free." Oh, these 3 words are more than a statement. They are a legal notice to the unseen realm. You are declaring that the territory the enemy once occupied is now off limits. You are planting a flag in the spiritual ground, proclaiming that this freedom is not temporary, but permanent. And every time you see those words, you will be reminded of the victory God secured for you. The retreat of the enemy is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a new chapter. You will walk into places you once feared, speak words you once hesitated to say, and take on assignments you once thought were too heavy. All because the one who tried to hold you back has been forced to step aside. Walk forward boldly. Chosen one, the enemy is behind you. The gates of heaven are before you. And every step you take now is a step further into the freedom you were always meant to carry. Divine alignments are one of the most powerful signs that heaven's gate over your life is open. These alignments are not coincidences. They are the intentional positioning of people, resources, and timing by the hand of God to move you into your next assignment. When you obeyed fully, you triggered a heavenly rearrangement that is now unfolding in your life. Sometimes these alignments happen quietly, almost unnoticed. You may suddenly meet someone whose story resonates with your journey, or find yourself in a conversation that opens a door you didn't even know existed. Other times, the alignments are dramatic, unexpected phone calls, divine appointments that alter your plans, or an open door in an area you thought was closed forever. As was spoken in the sacred texts of old, in Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 9, in their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. This verse is the essence of divine alignment. You may have made plans, but God has been orchestrating the connections and moments that will bring His plan to life in you. These alignments are not accidental. They are assignments in disguise. In this season, watch how relationships shift. God may bring new people into your life, people who carry answers, opportunities, or encouragement for your journey. At the same time, He may remove connections that no longer serve your growth or align with your calling. Both are part of His alignment process. Sometimes the subtraction is just as important as the addition. Resources will also begin to align. The things you need for your next step, whether finances, knowledge, skills, or tools, will begin to arrive. They may not always come in the way you expect, but they will come right on time. This is the precision of heaven's alignment. It never arrives too early to distract you, and never too late to delay you. Timing is the third key in divine alignment. You may have carried a vision for years, but it could not be birthed until the right moment. When the alignment comes, things that once felt heavy will move with ease. You will find yourself saying, "I can't believe this is all happening at once." But that is the nature of God's timing. It feels sudden, but it has been prepared in advance. Divine alignment also brings peace. Even when you step into new and unfamiliar territory, you will feel a deep sense that you are exactly where you are meant to be. That peace is the confirmation that heaven's hand is guiding your steps. It's important in this season to remain attentive. Alignments can be missed if you are too distracted, or dismissed if you expect them to look a certain way. Stay open to the unexpected. God often works through channels we would never choose for ourselves. As you recognize these alignments, steward them well. Treat every new relationship with honor, every resource with gratitude, and every opportunity with diligence. These are not random blessings. They are strategic pieces in the building of your destiny and chosen one. I want to pause here and speak from the heart. If this message is opening your eyes to the way God is working in your life, I encourage you to stay connected. Like this message so it can reach others who are also waiting for their alignments. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded that God is arranging their steps. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, not for the sake of numbers, but so you remain part of this growing family of faith, walking under an open heaven together. Remember, divine alignments are rarely just for you. They often place you in position to be a blessing to others, to connect them with what they need, or to speak into their lives at the right moment. Your obedience not only positions you for blessing, it makes you a bridge for others to cross into their breakthrough. You will look back on this season and realize that the greatest miracles were not always the spectacular ones, but the quiet, perfect arrangements of God's hand. And when you see the pattern clearly, you will know He had been aligning it all long before you could see it. So, walk forward with open eyes and a ready heart. The alignments are here. The connections are forming, and the timing is unfolding. Heaven has opened the gate, and every step from here is leading you deeper into the place God has prepared for you. The open heaven lifestyle is not a fleeting moment or a short spiritual high. It is a way of living in constant connection with God's presence and provision. Many experience brief seasons of breakthrough, but few learn how to remain in that flow. Yet this is exactly what your obedience has made available to you, the opportunity to live daily under an unbroken sky of favor, guidance, and communion with the Lord. Living under an open heaven means that the barriers between you and the flow of God's resources are removed. Prayer feels alive. Scripture comes alive with meaning, and worship becomes less about singing songs and more about walking in continuous awareness of His nearness. You find yourself speaking to God throughout the day, not out of obligation, but out of instinct, because His presence feels as close as your breath. The ancient words recorded in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 20, say, "Love the Lord your God, listen to His voice, and hold fast to Him, for the Lord is your life, and He will give you many years in the land He swore to give to your fathers." Oh, this is the heartbeat of the open heaven lifestyle love. Listen, hold fast. When these three are in place, the connection remains strong no matter the circumstances. An open heaven also brings clarity. You begin to recognize the difference between distractions and divine opportunities. What once confused you now seems simple, not because life has stopped being complex, but because your perspective has shifted. You are seeing from God's vantage point, where His plans fit together with precision, and the enemy's schemes are exposed before they take root. Provision under an open heaven often arrives in unexpected ways. It may not always look like abundance in the world's terms, but it will always be enough for what He has called you to do. Sometimes He will provide through people you never imagined would help you. Other times, He will release ideas, creativity, or strategies that open new doors. Living in this way also changes your relationship with time. You stop rushing ahead or lagging behind, because you begin to trust God's timing more than your own urgency. You realize that the same God who opened the gate knows exactly when and how to bring each promise to pass. However, this lifestyle is not without its challenges. The enemy cannot close the heaven over your life without your agreement, but he will try to distract you into stepping out from under its covering. This can come through complacency, pride, or the slow drift of neglecting your relationship with God. That is why vigilance is essential, not in a fearful sense, but in the way a gardener tends to a flourishing garden. One of the greatest dangers in living under an open heaven is becoming so accustomed to the blessings that you forget the one who gives them. This is why gratitude must remain at the center of your daily walk. Thank Him not only for the spectacular miracles, but also for the small, quiet provisions, the strength to get through the day, the wisdom to make a hard choice, the peace that holds you steady. The open heaven lifestyle also means you become a conduit of what you receive. Favor is given not only for your own benefit, but so that others can encounter God through your life. When provision flows to you, ask Him how it can flow through you. When revelation comes, share it in love and humility. When peace surrounds you, let it be a shelter for those who are weary. Over time, this way of living changes your very identity. You stop thinking of yourself as someone who occasionally experiences God's goodness, and you begin to see yourself as someone who walks in it continually. You become a witness, not only with your words, but with the atmosphere you carry. People may not have the language for it, but they will notice that something about you is different, steady, radiant, unshaken. The open heaven lifestyle is not reserved for special moments or special people. It is the inheritance of every believer who chooses to stay aligned with God's will. Your obedience has brought you here, but it will be your consistency that keeps you here. Chosen one. This is not a temporary season. This is an invitation to live in ongoing communion, to remain in step with the Spirit, to see every day as a continuation of the miracle that began when you said yes. And as you walk in this way, you will discover that heaven's gates do not close on those who choose to stay close to the one who opened them. Prophetic multiplication is one of the most powerful outcomes of your obedience. It is when the breakthrough God releases in your life begins to overflow into the lives of others without you even trying. Just as a seed carries within it the power to produce an entire harvest, your act of surrender has released a chain reaction that will touch more people than you can count. This multiplication is not merely about material blessing, though that can happen. It is about spiritual impact. The peace you now walk in begins to spread to those around you. The faith you carry inspires others to believe again. The freedom you have found becomes a testimony that draws others toward their own obedience. As the Apostle Paul wrote in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 9, verse 10, "Now he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will also supply and increase your store of seed and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness." This is God's way. He never blesses in isolation. When He places something in your hands, it is designed to multiply, and in this season, that multiplication will not be limited to your immediate circle. People you may never meet will be touched by what God is doing through you. Some of this multiplication will happen through intentional acts. You may speak encouragement to someone, share your resources, or mentor a person who is hungry for spiritual growth. But much of it will happen organically. Without realizing it, you will influence those who simply observe how you live, how you handle challenges, and how you respond to God's leading. One of the most beautiful aspects of prophetic multiplication is that it does not diminish you. In the natural, giving something away leaves you with less. But in the kingdom, what you give in obedience multiplies both in the lives of others and in your own. Your seed returns to you in ways you could never have arranged on your own. You will notice that your words carry more weight now. When you speak truth into someone's life, it will take root more quickly. When you pray for someone, they will sense a shift. This is because the authority you now carry is not just for your own battles, it is for the deliverance and strengthening of others. Sometimes, multiplication will begin with just one person. You might pour into someone who then reaches many more. The impact grows like ripples in water, expanding outward, far beyond the original point of contact. This is why the enemy fought so hard to keep you from obedience, because he knew your yes would not stop with you. You may also see multiplication in areas of your calling or work. What once took years to accomplish may now happen in months. Doors will open for your message, your craft, or your influence to reach larger audiences. And with every expansion, more lives will be touched. But with this increase comes responsibility. Multiplication must be stewarded well. It is not about building your own name, but about lifting His name higher. The moment the focus shifts to self-glory, the flow becomes compromised. Stay grounded in humility, remembering that all of this began with a simple act of obedience to the one who called you. Also, understand that multiplication does not mean you will never face challenges. In fact, greater influence often attracts greater opposition. But just as God sustained you in the early stages, He will equip you to navigate the demands of this season. To seal this moment in the natural, I want you to take a prophetic step. Comment the number 563 right now. The number 5 speaks of grace, 6 of man, and 3 of divine completeness together, declaring that the grace of God will complete what He has begun in and through you. Even as He works through your humanity, this is not superstition. It is agreement. By writing this number, you are declaring, Lord, let what you've started in me multiply beyond what I can see. You are inviting him to expand your reach, not for your own sake, but for the sake of his kingdom. Chosen one, your obedience has planted seeds in places you may never set foot. In time, you will hear testimonies, some directly, others in passing, that will remind you of just how far your yes traveled. And one day, in eternity, you will see the full harvest, and it will take your breath away. Tests after the gate are not signs that you made a wrong turn. They are confirmations that you are walking in the right direction. When heaven opens over your life, it does not mean the enemy will stop trying. It means his strategy will shift. Instead of blocking your entry, he will try to challenge your ability to remain inside. These tests often come quickly after breakthrough. You have just experienced God's provision, his favor, his unmistakable guidance, and suddenly a challenge arises that seems designed to shake your confidence. It might be a financial strain, a relational misunderstanding, a delayed promise, or a door that unexpectedly closes. At first, you may wonder if the open heaven was an illusion, but in reality, it is precisely because you are under an open heaven that these tests have come. These moments are not punishments, they are proving grounds. The same light that draws blessing also exposes areas still in need of strengthening. Heaven is not trying to push you out of favor, it is training you to carry it well. Think of a tree that has just begun to bear fruit. The wind shakes it, not to destroy it, but to deepen its roots. In the same way, the shaking you feel is securing your foundation so that the weight of coming glory will not crush you. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 10. I, the Lord, search the heart and examine the mind, to reward each person according to their conduct, according to what their deeds deserve. End of. God does not test to harm you, but to reveal what is truly in you, both to yourself and to those watching your life. These moments are opportunities to demonstrate that your faith is not dependent on perfect circumstances, but on the unshakable character of God. Some tests will come disguised as opportunities. They may offer quick success, but require small compromises. Others will present as delays extended, waiting that tempts you to take matters into your own hands. And still others will come in the form of pressure circumstances that demand a response before you feel ready. The key in these moments is to remember the same obedience that opened the gate will also keep it open. Do not trade long-term faithfulness for short-term relief. Every time you choose trust over fear, patience over haste, and integrity over compromise, you are reinforcing the spiritual foundation God has built in you. Tests also serve another purpose. They refine your discernment. Not every good thing is a God thing, and not every open door is meant to be walked through. Sometimes, the enemy will place counterfeit opportunities in your path, hoping to lure you off course. But when you remain anchored in prayer and the Word, you will sense the difference. Peace will accompany the path God has set. Restlessness will mark the counterfeit. During testing, it is vital to remember past victories. Your mind will try to focus on the challenge in front of you, but your spirit needs to recall what God has already done. The same God who opened the gate for you is not suddenly powerless in the face of this obstacle. This is where spiritual memory becomes a weapon. You can silence doubt by rehearsing the faithfulness of God. There is also a testing of character in this season. Influence, favor, and authority bring new responsibilities, and tests will reveal how you handle them. Will you remain humble when praised? Will you act with integrity when no one is watching? Will you steward resources wisely, even when the pressure to impress others is strong? Sometimes, the test will involve relationships. God may allow someone close to you to misunderstand your motives or question your choices. How you respond will either build bridges or burn them. The goal is not to win every argument, but to reflect the nature of Christ in every interaction. It is also worth noting that tests are temporary. They have a start and an end. The enemy wants you to believe the pressure will never lift, but that is a lie. Every test you pass becomes a testimony. Every trial you endure becomes a tool in your hand for future battles. Do not despise the testing season. It is in these moments that your spiritual muscles are strengthened, your roots grow deeper, and your capacity for greater responsibility expands. What feels like resistance is actually preparation for the next level of favor and influence God has for you. And when the test is over, you will not just return to where you were before. You will step forward stronger, wiser, and more unshakable than ever. The gates of heaven will remain open, and you will carry not only the blessing of obedience, but the credibility of one who has been tested and proven faithful. Acceleration of destiny is one of the clearest signs that the season has shifted in your favor. It is when God begins to compress time, causing what would normally take years to happen in months, or what might have taken months to happen in days. This is not about rushing ahead recklessly, but about moving at the pace of heaven, a pace unhindered by delay, distraction, or unnecessary detours. You will begin to notice that doors open faster than you expected. Connections form more easily, and resources arrive without the struggle you once knew. This is not because you suddenly became more skilled or influential, but because God is redeeming time that was once lost. Every moment of obedience becomes a multiplier, pushing you forward in ways that human effort alone could never achieve. The ancient words recorded in the book of Amos, chapter 9, verse 13, give a glimpse of this reality. The days are coming, declares the Lord, when the reaper will be overtaken by the plowman and the planter by the one treading grapes. New wine will drip from the mountains and flow from all the hills. And this is acceleration, when the harvest comes so quickly that it overtakes the planting, when blessing outruns preparation, and when the fulfillment of God's promises seems to leap over steps you thought were necessary. Acceleration also changes how you make decisions. In slower seasons, you have more time to deliberate, to weigh pros and cons, to seek multiple confirmations. In an accelerated season, opportunities will come with shorter windows, and you will need to rely on the clarity of your relationship with God to move swiftly without fear. This is why your intimacy with Him matters more than ever, because the pace of acceleration requires trust in His voice. However, acceleration does not mean there will be no resistance. In fact, increased speed can sometimes attract greater opposition, because the enemy knows how quickly you are advancing. But just as a fast-moving river can wash away obstacles in its path, so the momentum of God's favor will clear the way for you. The resistance you do encounter will often be brief, collapsing under the weight of God's timing. One important thing to remember is that acceleration is not uniform. God may fast-track certain areas of your life while allowing others to progress at a steady pace. This is not inconsistency, it is strategy. He knows which parts of your destiny require quick movement and which need gradual growth to sustain long-term fruitfulness. In this season, your influence may expand beyond what you thought possible. You may be invited into rooms you never imagined entering, entrusted with responsibilities that seem beyond your qualifications, or given opportunities that seem far larger than your current capacity. But do not shrink back. Acceleration means God is equipping you as you go. Acceleration also demands humility. It can be tempting to believe that your own ability or charm is causing the rapid progress, but this is a trap. The truth is, acceleration is a gift. It is not earned through striving, it is granted through alignment. Your role is to stay in step, to keep your heart surrendered, and to ensure that speed does not replace intimacy with the one who set the pace. Practically, acceleration may mean that seasons of preparation are shorter than expected. You may find yourself stepping into roles or projects that others assumed would take years to reach. It may also mean that relationships and partnerships form quickly, with an immediate sense of unity and shared purpose. This is not about skipping process, but about God condensing the process so that His purposes are fulfilled on time. There will be moments when the pace feels overwhelming, when you long for the slower rhythms you once knew. In those moments, remember that acceleration is not about exhaustion, it is about efficiency. God is not driving you to burn out, He is moving you to break through. Rest is still possible, but it will come in the form of deep trust rather than idle waiting. As acceleration continues, you will see patterns in your journey, divine setups that make sense only in hindsight, connections that seem too precise to be chance, and outcomes that surpass what your planning could have achieved. This is the beauty of walking in step with heaven's timing. You do not have to make everything happen, you simply have to keep saying yes to the next step. And when you look back, you will realize that the years the enemy tried to steal have been restored, not just matched, but multiplied. The acceleration of destiny is God's way of proving that no delay is final, no detour is wasted, and no obedience goes unrewarded. The crown is placed not as a trinket for display, but as a symbol of authority, honor, and the fulfillment of a promise. In the kingdom of God, crowns are not given for talent or charm, they are given for faithfulness. When you obeyed completely, you were not just given an open gate, you were prepared for a public moment of recognition before heaven and earth. In the unseen realm, this crowning was not quiet. Angels gathered. The king himself extended his hand and placed the crown upon your head. In that instant, your identity as a chosen one was not only affirmed, but displayed. You are not just walking under favor, you are carrying a royal assignment. As the Apostle Paul declared in his second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 8, "Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who longed for his appearing." This crown is not a temporary decoration, it is a mantle of honor that carries weight. It represents your proven faith in the face of trials, your obedience when it cost you something, your steadfastness when others walked away. Heaven crowns what it can trust. Receiving the crown is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of a new level of responsibility. Crowns in the kingdom are for reigning, not resting. They signify that you are now positioned to influence, to intercede, and to lead with the authority of one who represents the king. The placement of the crown also signals a shift in how you are perceived in the spiritual realm. Darkness recognizes it as a mark of defeat, a sign that its attempts to derail you have failed. The angels recognize it as an assignment marker that you are now authorized to operate at a higher capacity in your calling. This season will require you to wear your crown with humility. Crowns in God's kingdom are never for self-glory. If you use it to draw attention to yourself, it will become a weight rather than a blessing. But when you carry it as a tool for service, it will unlock influence you never imagined. People may start seeking your guidance. They may approach you for prayer, wisdom, or encouragement. This is part of the responsibility of wearing a crown to pour into others without losing the posture of a servant. The greatest kings in the kingdom are the greatest servants. It is also important to guard your crown. Just as there were attacks before you received it, there will be attempts to discredit you after you wear it. Some will question whether you deserve it. Others may try to tempt you into actions that would tarnish it. But your job is to remain steadfast, knowing that the one who placed it on your head has already declared you worthy through his righteousness. There is beauty in the fact that this crown was not placed on you in private. Heaven's recognition will often spill into the natural realm. You may be honored publicly, trusted with greater responsibilities, or given opportunities to stand in places of influence. But remember, the earthly acknowledgement is only a reflection of what has already been established in the spirit. And now, chosen one, I want to pause to speak from the heart. If this message has stirred you, if you can feel the weight and wonder of what God is placing on you right now, then I encourage you to stay connected. Like this message, so others can receive the same encouragement. Share it with someone you know is walking faithfully, but needs the reminder that their crown is coming. Comment below with your thoughts or testimony. Your story might be the very confirmation someone else is waiting for. And if you haven't yet, subscribe so you remain part of this growing family, walking under an open heaven together. Wearing your crown is a daily choice. It is not about feeling worthy every morning, but about remembering who gave it to you and why. Some days you will feel the weight of it. Other days, you will barely notice it's there. But in both, it is shaping how you walk, speak, and lead. There will be moments when you are tempted to take it off, to shrink back into the shadows, to live like you did before the gate opened. Resist that temptation. The crown was not given for a season, it was given for your assignment. And your assignment is not over. One day, you will lay that crown at the feet of the one who gave it, not in shame, but in joy, knowing that you carried it faithfully. Until then, walk forward as one crowned in righteousness, chosen for such a time as this, and equipped to fulfill every purpose written for your life. Legacy in motion is the moment when your obedience begins to outlive you. It is when the choices you make today begin to shape the lives of people you will never meet and influence generations that will come long after you are gone. The beauty of walking under an open heaven is that the blessings released over you are not confined to your lifetime. They ripple forward, embedding themselves into the very spiritual DNA of those who follow. When you said your final yes to God, you set something in motion that could not be undone. Heaven recorded your obedience, and in doing so, it altered the trajectory of your bloodline. Curses that may have plagued your family for decades or even centuries have been broken. In their place, blessings have been planted, blessings that will grow like trees. providing shelter and fruit for those who come after you. These blessings will not be fragile or short-lived. They will take root deep in the soil of your lineage, weathering storms and outlasting the schemes of the enemy, even in seasons when future generations may drift. The covenant you've stepped into will remain as a beacon, calling them back to the path, like an anchor buried in the depths. Your obedience will hold them steady, ensuring that the spiritual inheritance you have secured will not be easily stolen or forgotten. We are reminded through the writings of Psalms, chapter 103, verse 17, "But from everlasting to everlasting, the Lord's love is with those who fear him, and his righteousness with their children's children." Legacy is not built in grand gestures alone. It is formed in the daily, consistent acts of faithfulness, the prayers whispered in the quiet, the forgiveness extended when it would have been easier to hold a grudge, the integrity maintained when compromise seemed like the faster route. Each of these is a seed, and seeds produce harvests beyond the one who plants them. In this season, your life will become a reference point for others. Your children or spiritual sons and daughters will tell stories about your steadfastness, your trust in God, your unwavering commitment to righteousness. They will see in you an example that following God is not just possible, but deeply rewarding. Legacy in motion also means that the spiritual battles you win now will not have to be fought again by those who come after you. The territory you take in the Spirit will remain theirs to build upon, not reclaim. Every victory you secure becomes part of their inheritance. There is also a multiplication effect to legacy. As your influence extends, it will touch not only your immediate circle, but also people you may never know. Someone who hears your testimony may pass it along to another, and that person may be inspired to make their own stand of obedience. Before long, your act of faith has sparked change in places you have never even seen. But legacy requires intentionality. It is possible to live under an open heaven and still fail to pass the blessing forward if you do not actively invest in those coming behind you. This is why discipleship, mentorship, and teaching are so important. Sharing your wisdom, your experiences, and your faith stories ensures that what you have gained does not end with you. Your legacy will also be marked by the way you carry yourself in times of challenge. The next generation will not only remember your victories, they will remember your attitude in the process. Did you walk through trials with bitterness or with trust? Did you cling to hope even when the outcome was uncertain? These are the qualities that will echo the loudest in the memories of those who watch you. Sometimes, legacy is built in hidden places. You may not realize the full scope of your impact while you are alive. You might wonder if your quiet faithfulness is making a difference. But heaven sees, and heaven ensures that every act of obedience is multiplied in ways you cannot yet measure. There is a deep joy in knowing that your life is part of something bigger, that your obedience is not just for your own blessing, but for the shaping of history. When you live with legacy in mind, your priorities shift. You stop asking only what is easiest for you and start asking what will serve those who come after you. Chosen one. Legacy in motion is not a dream, it is your present reality. Every day you walk in obedience. Every prayer you pray, every stand you take is writing a story that will be read for generations. And one day, long after you have stepped into eternity, the gates of heaven will open for others because you chose to walk through them first. Eternal gates remain open, not just for a moment, not just for a season, but for the rest of your journey with the Lord. The day you fully obeyed was not an isolated event, it was the unlocking of a permanent spiritual reality. You are no longer merely visiting moments of favor and intimacy with God, you are dwelling in them. This does not mean that life will suddenly be free from challenges, but it does mean that every challenge will now be faced from inside the security of His presence. The gates of heaven are not flimsy doors that swing shut at the first sign of trouble. They are unshakable, anchored in the covenant God has with you. We find in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 8, I know your deeds. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. I know that you have little strength, yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. This promise is your new reality. The door is open, and nothing in earth or hell has the power to close it. Even in seasons where you may feel weak or unsure, the open heaven over you is not dependent on your emotions. It is rooted in God's unchanging faithfulness. Living with the eternal gates open means you walk with constant access to His guidance, provision, and protection. Prayer becomes more than a request. It becomes a conversation. Worship becomes more than a Sunday act. It becomes a way of breathing. Every step you take is taken within the flow of His favor. It also means that what is possible for you has expanded. You are no longer limited to the natural boundaries of your own ability, connections, or resources. Heaven's resources are now in the equation, and they do not run dry. Ideas, strategies, and divine solutions will come to you at the exact moment they are needed, because the gates are open and the flow is constant. The permanence of these gates does not remove your responsibility to remain aligned with God's will. Just as you stepped into this reality through obedience, you continue to walk in it through daily surrender. The gates are not fragile, but your ability to move freely through them depends on your willingness to stay close to the One who opened them. This new place will also reshape how you see obstacles. What once felt like a wall now becomes a platform for God's glory. Delays no longer feel like denials, but as part of His orchestration. Even when prayers seem unanswered, you will carry the unshakable awareness that the gate remains open, and God is working in ways you cannot yet see. Your relationships will be affected too. As you live with the gates open, those around you will experience the overflow. Peace will spill into your conversations. Wisdom will flow into your counsel, and joy will radiate from your presence. You will find yourself becoming a refuge for others, a place where they can encounter God simply by being near you. Eternal gates also mean eternal perspective. You stop living for temporary rewards and start building with eternity in mind. Every decision, every act of service, every sacrifice is weighed against its eternal value. This perspective frees you from the pressure to prove yourself in the eyes of others. Your focus shifts to pleasing the One whose gates you now walk through daily. There will be seasons when the reality of these open gates will be especially evident, moments when prayers are answered before you even speak them, when provision arrives before you realize you need it, when peace surrounds you in the middle of chaos. But even in quieter seasons, the truth remains. The gates have not closed. One day, when your journey on this earth is complete, you will step through yet another gate, the eternal entrance into the presence of God forever. And when that moment comes, it will not feel unfamiliar, because you have already been living under open gates. This life has been your rehearsal for eternity, and eternity will simply be the continuation of the presence you have already known. Chosen one. The gates stand open. You did not force them open, and you will not need to hold them open. They are secured by the covenant of the one who called you, redeemed you, and crowned you. Walk through them daily with gratitude, boldness, and faith, knowing that this reality will never be taken from you. Chosen one. You have walked through every step of this journey from the first moment heaven paused for you to the eternal gates that will never close. You have seen how obedience shifts atmospheres, opens doors, and sets in motion blessings that ripple through generations. This is not just a story, this is your reality now. You carry the mark of one who has been tested, refined, and trusted with greater responsibility. The gates over your life are open, and the flow of God's favor, guidance, and presence is steady. Your yes has changed more than your own path. It has impacted the spiritual landscape around you. But this is not the end. This is the beginning of a lifestyle of walking under an open heaven. Every day from here is an opportunity to live with courage, to bless others with what you've received, and to guard the sacred covenant you now carry. And I want to speak to you directly if this message has stirred your heart, encouraged your faith, or given you fresh vision for your journey. Let's make sure you stay connected, like this message, so it can reach others who need it. Share it with someone you know is standing at their own gate of decision. Comment below with your testimony or even just one line that stood out to you. Your words may be the confirmation someone else is praying for. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you can continue walking with this growing family of faith, receiving every word that heaven places in our path. Your story is not over. Chosen one. The gates are open. Walk through them boldly and never look back.